You guys want to see something crazy? We're having our first, I believe, full cabinet meeting, and you'll never guess who showed up.
Okay, thank you very much. We appreciate you being here, and we've put together a great cabinet, and we've had tremendous success. We've been given a lot of credit for having a very successful
The audio?
first
We'll
month,
switch videos soon,
and
don't
we want
worry.
to make that many months and years, actually, and other things.
SCP?
And as you know, we're in for probably $350 billion. Europe is in for $100 billion. And that's a big difference. So we're in for probably 3 times as much, and yet it's very important to everybody, but Europe's very close. We have a big ocean separating us. So
all right, do the introduction.
It's very important for Europe, and they hopefully will step up and do
it.
2,800 counties to 500 counties. Think of that. And so we have a mandate to do this, and this is part of the
overwhelming public mandate of a 1.5% majority, one of the slimmest election popular vote majorities in presidential history.
I got elected. I got elected based on taxes and based on many things in the border, but also based on balancing budgets and getting our country.
By the way, I should note to all of you, because I know a lot of you are young and not really familiar with how these things have worked historically, but it's not actually normal for a presidential cabinet meeting to be treated like a campaign rally. Trump treats literally every event that he's at that has a camera like a campaign rally. He is at a cabinet meeting.
Country back into shape, and this is a big part of it. So, Elon, if you could get up and explain where you are, how you're doing, and how much we're cutting, and it's an honor to have you. He's been a tremendously successful guy. He's really working so hard, and he's got businesses to run. And in many ways, they say, how do you do this? And, you know, he's sacrificing a lot.
And here we go, guys. At the presidential cabinet meeting, standing off to the side, looking over everyone, Elon Musk. Let me switch audio streams, 1 second, to a shot that hopefully doesn't have quite as much buzzing. Actual shadow president shit, 100%. Oh, the title of this video, or the title of the article that contains this video, Trump to cabinet. You're out if you're unhappy with Musk. I mean, even Russia, isn't this insane? That's not even a joke. It would literally be like if there was one guy in Russia who was wealthier than Putin, and at like every opportunity he followed Putin, and he, cabinet meeting turns, hey everyone, so here's the one wealthier guy. There he is, you have to listen to him. Incredible. Well, Putin is that guy. Yeah, Putin is that guy, but at least that makes more sense. This is more insane than if Elon Musk just ran himself and won. That would be less crazy than Trump being the guy who won, and then once Trump is in, he's like, yeah, I'm not really the president, actually. Elon's the president. Sorry, I was joking, ha. I'm not actually the president. Elon's the president.
I actually just call myself a humble tech support here because this is actually, as crazy as it sounds, that is almost a literal description of the work that the DOGE team is doing, is helping fix the government computer systems. Many of these systems are extremely old. They don't communicate. There are a lot of mistakes in the systems. The software doesn't work. So
I can't believe that I'm pausing to say this because it's normally not what I focus on, but isn't it remarkable how up this hat looks at him? Like, it didn't even occur to me this was like a potential fit up. You know, it's a pretty simple, straightforward application of hat to head, but you know, he's a remarkable, yeah, he's got a dent in the hat to match the dent in the head. Incredible stuff.
we are actually tech support. It's ironic, but it's true. The overall goal here with the DOGE team is to help.
That's not what ironic means. Oh, speaking of Elon's genius, I just have to throw this in there because it's really, really, really important to always jump on opportunities like this when you can. Elon Musk replied to this tweet saying it should. Why is this plane not flying in a straight line? And it's a plane that flew from San Francisco, presumably stopped in LA, or flew over LA, and then to Houston. And Elon replied to this saying it should. This guy wants to replace federal air traffic control workers with SpaceX employees. Actually, it seems you guys don't know the answer either. It's not actually because the Earth is round. Airplanes take flights over airports so that if there's a problem, they can make an emergency landing easier. If they took a direct flight like this, there would be far fewer stops over the path. But if you take this path down here, there are far more. But also, it's like a round Earth thing to an extent. Wind currents, it's complicated. Anyway, just the level we're on. It's pretty bad, man. At least AOC said it recently.
DOGE did not exist 2 years ago. 19-year-olds were not raiding the Treasury 2 years ago. People who have no idea with medical background have not been hauling in and creating kangaroo courts for scientists to dismiss them 2 years ago. That started happening now. Elon Musk is not a scientist.
There's also a lot of restricted airspace in between. Ah, good point, right? Probably a lot of stuff over Nevada you can't fly over. Air moves over mountains differently, maybe for a guy like you.
He is not an engineer. He is a billionaire con man with a lot of money. He does not have this kind of good background. And in fact, while there's some disruption over that, I sincerely ask you all to examine what expertise he has in approving medical devices, in biomedical engineering devices. And if you all think that he is an expert in that, I've got a bridge to nowhere to sell you. These are people's lives that are on the line.
Democrats need to get much more aggressive about being like directly insulting to Elon and Trump. You know, Maxwell Frost from Florida, we've covered him quite a few times. He was threatened to remove from the Reform Committee for calling Trump a grifter. You can get removed from committee seats pretty easily because it's subject to fewer rules than you would get in getting removed from like censured in the actual House.
Help address the enormous deficit. We simply cannot sustain as a country $2 trillion deficits. The interest rates, just the interest on the national debt, now exceeds the Defense Department spending. We spend a lot on the Defense Department, but we're spending like over $1 trillion on interest. If this continues, the country will become de facto bankrupt. It's not an optional thing. It is an essential
thing. They
thing.
just voted to increase the deficit by $2.5 trillion over 10 years, by the way. Well, increase the debt by $2.5 trillion. So increase the deficit by $250 billion every year.
That's the reason I'm here. And taking a lot of flack and getting a lot of death threats, by the way. I mean, I'd like to stack them up. You know? But if we don't...
guys, why? I'm just the wealthiest man in the world who used my wealth to buy political power and now operate as the shadow president. And I'm tearing apart all the institutions, firing, 250,000 federal workers in less than a month. And I'm also trying to take away people's Medicaid. Why are people mad at me? I'm just a little birthday boy. Every other week, this motherfucker's on Twitter saying some shit like, I find it inquisitive the extent to which people are agitated by my actions. And then 500 million bot accounts reply, so true, you said it.
Don't do this. America will go bankrupt. That's why it has to be done. And I'm confident at this point, knock on wood, knock on my wooden head, it's got a lot of wood.
Sorry, I gotta keep my... Okay, I gotta keep it together. I can't watch The Office because of the cringe comedy. I can't do that stuff, you know? I'm one of those people who has a weakness to it. And watching him in public for any length of time hits the exact same beat.
Up there, that we can actually find $1 trillion in savings. That would be roughly 15% of the $7 trillion budget. And
remember when the goal was finding $2 trillion in savings just by cutting waste, graft, and fraud? And then he cut a bunch of stuff, and then it turns out he was lying about the stuff that he cut, and in reality, nobody knows how much he actually cut because they're keeping really poor records of it. And all of this is unconstitutional.
Obviously, that can only be done with the support of everyone in this room. And I'd like to thank everyone for your support. Thank you very much. This can only be done with your support.
Wow.
So it's really, DOGE is a support function for the president and for the agencies and departments to help achieve those savings and to effectively find 15% in reduction in fraud and waste.
How does this guy have friends? I guarantee you Elon Musk doesn't have friends. That's like an easiest call imaginable, 100%. It's hard enough to get friends as a wealthy person. Like, if you're a super wealthy person, it's hard enough to know whether or not people are friends with you because of your money and power or what. With him, literally no chance. Absolutely not. There's a reason why his Doge team are like a bunch of handpicked 19-year-old Discord kittens and not like a crack team of Silicon Valley friends and professionals that he worked with.
And we bring the receipts. So people say, like, well, is this real? Just go to doge.gov. we line item by line item, we specify.
We bring the receipts,
So,
and then we edit those receipts on the back end, falsify government documents, and then eventually we backpedal, unfalsify the documents, and remove those items from the website. Remember, the top 3 cuts that he was bragging about have all been removed from the Doge registry.
and I should say we will make mistakes.
Oh yeah.
We will-
And Herzberg, lest we forget, he's saying this to the cabinet. This is this is not for the cabinet. Well, okay, there are 2 reasons this is being done. One of them is to remind the cabinet who's really in charge. And the second one is this is being used as yet more like public propaganda. There is a reason why there are so many reporters here, okay? You know, a lot of cabinet meetings are held in secret because they're cabinet meetings. Like, that makes sense? They're cabinet meetings.
Won't be perfect, but when we make a mistake, we'll fix it very quickly. So, for example, with USAID, one of the things we accidentally canceled very briefly was Ebola, Ebola prevention. I think we all want Ebola prevention. So we restored the Ebola prevention immediately.
That's great, man. What about the AIDS prevention? Why are you going over your mistakes? It's really weird. I think Elon like is in this weird space where he's a grifter and a liar, but he's also not very politically trained. So he doesn't understand that past a certain point of being a grifter, you never admit to a mistake ever. Like it is better to lie your way through than to ever acknowledge fault. He got a lot of flack during that Oval Office meeting where he was in charge and his kid was wandering around, and he was like, yeah, we're going to make mistakes. Like the reporter asked him a question, what about this thing? And he was like, yeah, we're going to make mistakes. Why would you admit that?
And there was no interruption. But we do need to move quickly if we're to achieve a $1 trillion deficit reduction in financial year 2026. It requires saving $4 billion per day, every day, from now through the end of September. But we can do it, and we will do it. Thank you.
Would you have any questions of Elon while we're on the subject of DOGE? Because we'll finish off with that. And if you would have any questions, please ask. You could ask me or Elon. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Musk. I just wanted to ask you that President Trump put out a Truth Social today saying that everybody in the cabinet was happy with you. I just wondered if you had heard otherwise, and if you had heard anything about members of the cabinet who weren't happy with
Yes, infighting questions. Yes. Given that so many of these people are stupid, you should really just like softball them the easiest. Like, which one of you guys do you think is the tallest? And then Trump would be like, well, I'm not going to say I'm the tallest, but I'm probably at least one of the tall. Like, get everyone in there, get them arm wrestling, you know?
with the way things were going? And if so, what are you doing to address those any dissatisfaction?
Hey, let the cabinet speak just for a second. Is anybody unhappy with Elon? If you are, well, throw him out of here.
You know, the shadow president stuff, I gotta say, it's really not a joke, is it? It's... It really actually is what happened. It's the most obvious corporate oligarchical takeover that I can think of in the history of any developed country. I can't think of any parallel to this ever in all of human history. Well, I mean, if you go back to pre-democratic, sorry, like we're talking about in a democracy, but like in a democratic system, I can't think of anything else like this. You'd have to either go to a very small, poor country, a very undemocratic country. I mean, it's televised. It's the president of the United States telling his cabinet that if you disagree with this unelected oligarch, that you're out. What? There's no artifice. There's no pretense. It's just happening. Oh yeah, clap for that. Yes. I think you misheard. He said he'd kick Elon. Oh, did I mishear? The point of the statement remains the same either way, obviously. But
Unhappy with Elon? If you are, well, throw him out of here.
I can't tell if he's saying him or them. I can't really tell. It doesn't really matter either way. Anyone who disagrees with this shadow president, speak up now publicly. Hey, anyone got a problem with this? Functionally, the sentiment is the same, though I can't tell whether he's saying him or they.
lot of respect for Elon and that he's doing this, and some disagree a little bit, but I will tell you, for the most part, I think everyone's not only happy, they're thrilled. So go ahead, Elon.
See?
And President Trump has put together,
More?
I think, the best cabinet ever. Literally. So, I do not give false praise. This is an incredible group of people. I don't think that such a talented team has actually ever been assembled. I think it's literally the best cabinet that the country has ever had. And I think the company should be incredibly appreciative of the people in this room.
Really?
Yeah.
Mr. President, thank you, Mr. Musk. Are there about half of the government employees so far appear to have responded to your request for what they've been doing over the past week? Is there a timeline in place for next moves for people being fired?
He said the company? I might have missed that. It's all so crazy. I might have missed that.
Go ahead, please.
Praise. This is an incredible group of people. I don't think that such a talented team has actually ever been assembled. I think it's literally the best cabinet that the country has ever had. And I think the company should be incredibly appreciative of the people in this room.
Yep, he said company. He meant to say country, but he said company, which is why everyone was quiet after. I was wondering why there wasn't any performative applause after. I didn't catch the Freudian slip there. Jesus, man. Oh.
Mr. President, thank you, Mr. Musk. Are there about half of the government employees so far appear to have responded to your request for what they've been doing over the past week? Is there a timeline in place for next moves for people being fired, and when can the American people expect to see results from that?
Yes. Well, to be clear, I think that email perhaps was best interpreted as a performance review, but actually it was a pulse check review. Do you have a pulse? You have a pulse and 2 neurons. So if you have a pulse and 2 neurons, you can reply to an email. This is, I think not a high bar, is what I'm saying. This is, anyone could accomplish this. But what we are trying to get to the bottom of is we think there are...
Keep in mind that there are people in this room who instructed their employees to not respond to that email. Intelligence Services didn't respond. I think, was it Health and Human Services who said not to as well? What was the other major department? The DOE? Okay. CIA, FBI? Yeah, I said Intelligence Services.
A number of people on the government
DOJ,
payroll
yeah.
who are dead, which is probably why they can't respond. And some people who are not real people, like they're literally fictional individuals that are collecting paychecks. Well, somebody's collecting paychecks on a fictional individual. So we're just literally trying to figure out, are these people real? Are they alive? And can they write an email?
I like the idea that the way you would find out if there are ghost employees cashing paychecks for work that's not being done would be to send an email and see if they send one back. Is if a person who's cashing the checks associated with the email couldn't just fire an email back. They would already have to have either a direct deposit or to a bank account or a mailing address. They don't have control over the email. They haven't been, just for 20 years now, they just haven't been engaging with their email that they've been receiving their orders from. That's the test. If anything, I would say the people who replied the most readily are the fake workers, because they're the ones who are like, oh shit, I don't want to let this get blown up.
Which I think is a reasonable expectation for the American public would have at least that expectation.
The original message sparked confusion, and several agencies told workers to ignore the request, including the Justice Department, the FBI, the State Department, the Pentagon, the Department of Energy, the Department of Homeland Security, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. Do you think the reason they're having this cabinet meeting is to remind all of these secretaries to not get in Elon's way in the future? Yeah, there are 6 people sitting at that table who directly ordered their own employees not to reply to him.
Someone in the public sector.
Mr. Musk,
Thank you,
roughly 1 million employees.
It's not a high bar, guys. Come on.
Roughly 1 million employees have responded so far to this email. Does that mean that the remaining 1 million or so federal employees now risk being terminated? And is it your understanding and expectation when you post a directive on X that the cabinet secretaries will follow that order? Because several agencies have instructed employees that this is voluntary or not to respond.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess it was last week the president encouraged me via Truth Social and also via phone call to be more aggressive, and I was like, okay.
Guys, reply to this email, you're fired. A lot of people didn't reply. Okay, reply to this second email, you're fired. This is a great cabinet, everyone. Great, best cabinet. I don't give false praise. By the way, about half of you telling your employees not to respond to me. I'm not saying I'm gonna fire 1 million employees. I'm just saying, like, I don't know what I'm doing here, to be honest. What the f is he doing here?
You know, yes, sir, Mr. President, we will indeed do that. The president is the commander-in-chief. I do what the president asks. And I said, can we send out an email to everyone just saying, what did you get done last week? And the president said yes, so it did that.
Dude, he's such a actual, like, age-regressed infant. What the f? He gets asked one direct... The email said, reply or you're fired. He gets asked one direct question, are you going to fire them? And he's like, it was my birthday, and I asked the president, the commander-in-chief, if I could send out an email for fun, and he said yes, and I just, you know... Look at his demeanor, man.
Secretaries will follow that order because several agencies have instructed employees that this is voluntary or not to respond.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess it was...
To be clear, proceeds to be less clear than any human has ever been in history.
Like last week, the president encouraged me via Truth Social and also via phone call to be more aggressive. And I was like, okay.
I know I keep pausing and I'm sorry, but there's so much to go into here. This is the strangest dynamic that I've ever seen in governance. I genuinely can't think of, even if you go to like despots and warlords in the third world, like places where they don't even have a semblance of a democracy, I feel like there is a clearer and more transparent chain of command. We're dealing with some like insane vizier shit where like the vizier has already taken over and the sultan is being controlled, but also anytime the vizier is questioned, he gets really nervous and hides behind this. Like it's that he's taken over, but he doesn't have the confidence to stand by it, so he like shrinks when given the I don't get it. It's actually insane. Historians are going to be dissecting this for centuries afterwards. Like this period of history is going to get more scrutiny than the founding fathers, man. Like the amount of people in the future are going to be like, literally what happened. You legalized gay marriage. Joe Biden said there were at least 3 genders. Then he got elected to president. Something happened. And then this. Incredible stuff.
You know, yes, sir, Mr. President, we will indeed do that. The president is the commander-in-chief. I do what the president asks. And I said, can we send out an email to everyone just saying, what did you get done last week? And the president said yes, so it did that. You know, we got a partial response. We're going to send another email. But our goal is not to be capricious or...
What are you saying, dude? Are you going to cry? What are you saying? You got asked one question by a reporter. Everyone there is embarrassed for him. Yeah, like all the people in this room have some kind of media training except for him, apparently.
Or unfair. We want to give people every opportunity to send an email. And the email could simply be, what I'm working on is too sensitive or classified to describe. Like literally just, that would be sufficient. You know, I think this is just common sense.
And what is your target number for how many workers, employees you're looking to cut total?
We wish to keep everyone who is doing a job that is essential and doing that job well. But if the job is not essential, or they're not...
You're just mad he's more autistic than you. In this competition, he is undeniably winning.
...doing the job well, they obviously should not be on the public payroll.
Jesus, man. This guy couldn't get elected to city council. This guy couldn't get elected to any position anywhere. Nobody would ever trust this man with anything. He's only ever gotten where he's gotten because of money. From the emerald mine in South Africa and onwards or whatever. Like, it literally, like, everything has just been compounding interest. Again, like, I'm glad that when the fascist takeover of the United States happened, it was, you know, largely conducted by the stupidest and most incompetent man on earth. I don't know how much of a difference it makes, but, you know, I guess we'll see. Was that the whole coverage of the meeting? No. The whole meeting was an hour. That was just Elon Musk's chunk. But, man. And the company slip up? God, that's funny. Oh, man, that's funny.